The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu has a lot of notoriety. It is a science fiction novel that has been praised by Obama and Mark Zuckerberg, and it won the Galaxy Award in China, which is their equivalent of the Hugo. And then when it was translated in 2012 to 14 by Ken Liu, it also won the Hugo Award for that year as well, and kind of put science fiction on a more worldwide scale. So there's a lot of hype with this book, is what I'm saying. If you wanted to borrow from the library, you'd have to wait a little bit, because it's, even though it came out 6 years ago or whatever, translated 6 years ago, it's still hard to get, and it's still, sort of on the forefront of everyone's list, probably for sci-fi anyway. So the first thing you have to know is that I went into this book blind, and literally, if you open up this book, on the cover here, it already tells you the ending, or the sort of reveal. So that's bad, and that's why I have trouble, I like to go into books blind. I don't want to know anything. So I didn't know anything going into this book, which is great, but a lot of people probably read, the inside cover to find out what it's about. And, the same goes for any book series. If you, let's say you borrow 3 copies in a row, like the first 3 entries, and you accidentally read the back cover of one of them, it could say something like, Detective John Doe's wife was brutally murdered in the last installment, and now he's reeling. And then sometimes major spoilers can be on the back of books, on the inside covers, and it's kind of annoying. So I think for this book, you have to try to go in knowing the least amount physically possible. So this book is about Yi Wenji. She is a young girl who loses a lot of her family during the Cultural Revolution, and she is sort of labeled as a revolutionary. So she's in a work camp until she makes a mistake. She finds herself being recruited for Red Coast Base. It's like this military installation on a mountain in the middle of nowhere, and because she's got a background in physics, they decide to let her redeem herself. So she's working on this base, and they pretty much let her know that she's never allowed to leave. And she's okay with that, because, a life here would probably be better than, slogging away in a work camp. So she is working at the Red Coast Base, and we sort of jump back to the present, and we're exploring the story of Wang Mao. He is a nanomaterials man who's trying to develop like this new super nanotech sort of thing, like a filament that can like cut through anything. So like imagine a piece of fiber so thin that could go through anything, and you attach that to like nunchucks. You could like walk up to someone and take their head off from behind, stuff like that. So he finds himself being recruited by the police because he was invited to this sort of society of scientists and things like that. But there's a lot of sort of conspiracy going on involving murdered scientists killing themselves. Mysterious thing happens with mainly scientists. So it's up to Wang Mao and the police to sort of try to find out what's going on. So he goes undercover, and he discovers the Three-Body, which is a video game involving a haptic suit, kind of like Ready Player One. Players go in and they have to basically live in this desolate landscape world where there are 3 different suns that always have different combinations that wreck the planet, basically. So there'll be extreme cold or extreme hot, and the populace is always trying to dehydrate themselves in order to escape and put themselves in these giant things. And apparently that's supposed to be the most entertaining part of the book. For me, it was the most boring. And then there's parallels between this video game and the past, when we keep exploring Yi Wenji's sort of journey of being on Red Coast based and like what she's doing, and then you get that reveal. So overall, I don't want to get into it. I'm not going to talk about like the reveal. In case you don't know, I'm just going to not talk about that. I want to talk about the book itself. The book is a little bit underwhelming, and not because of the hype. The book it left me feeling a little bit cold. I don't think it has anything to do with the translation process. I just think that the book's characters are a little bit on the thin side. They're only there to sort of push the plot forward. It's been compared to Isaac Asimov's stories as well, where the characters aren't really there to, emote or do things. They're just there to be like, hey, I'm here, but this is the science, and so, I mean, I've never read Isaac Asimov's work, but the book just, the characters were really flat. And the only character I really liked was the police captain guy who or ex-police, Dashi is his nickname. He's like this very jaded, blunt individual who they like his expertise. He's probably the most entertaining character. However, the rest of the book, it feels like a prequel. You know, you get some, they throw a little bit of action here or there. It feels really cartoonish, and you know, the whole revolutionary thing. And yeah, it feels like a prequel. It honestly feels like it's setting up a story for later, and you're not really satisfied with anything now. You get the sort of, you know, you get all of the explanations at the end of the book, but it's all done in sort of like interview format, and then it almost feels like you're reading a textbook, and maybe that was the intention, that you're like, oh, and this is an example of, like, you know, history. You know, like if a person reads about Hitler, you know, it kind of feels like you're reading about, you know, this person. And I was just like, it wasn't very satisfying. You know, it was very clinical, is what I'm trying to say. And you can obviously tell there are some parallels with the author's political views that are in the book. And, you know, he said online that, oh, it's just science fiction, you know, just look at it as science fiction. But I'm not dumb. I can see it there. So I was able to finish the book. It's not that bad. It's just shy of 400 pages. And I picked up the second and third book from a thrift shop for very cheap. So, I mean, this book was interesting enough to check out, but it left me feeling a little bit, you know, meh. Because it honestly feels like one of Orson Scott Card's prequels. You know, if you know of the Ender's Game series, there's like the first 4 books, and there's all this extraneous material, like, you know, this other character at the same time, or, you know, there's like a prequel, or Ender's brother, or Ender's sister, or this other kid, or, you know, the other kids in the academy, and then now there's like a Formic War, first one, the second one. It feels like one of the first Formic War sort of stories, where like you're getting all this background information, but you're not getting a lot of action, and it's stuff that's, you know, it's already happened. So overall, the 3-Body Problem has a lot of, you know, hype, and I can see why people enjoyed it a lot, but I can also see why it's, you know, a little bit all over the place. You know, it's doesn't feel like we've got a beginning, middle, end. It feels like a beginning and that's it. And then, well, I'm interested to see where the rest of the books go in the Dark Forest and Death's End. So we'll see how that goes. And I give the 3-Body Problem a 2.5 out of 5.